start with, can you all rub your hands like this? Now hands apart. I'm going to count to 3, and on 3, you're going to clap. 1, 2. I did not say it. It is extremely essential, and the reason I ask you to do this exercise is that what your brain is doing is automatically expanding and filling up the 3 on its own, right? You don't even wait for anybody to listen, which is very similar to when you're on WhatsApp, that wonderful favorite thing we all do first thing in the morning, right? Before we brush our teeth, chi, the first thing we do is scroll up. That you're already answering questions before they have been asked. You've already formed an opinion about somebody, something, or some issue before it has even been stated. And this is demonstrated even in the fact that you do not wait for the 3 to be called and then you clap. It is like being given an instructional manual by CBSE and you've gone to the last page to see what the relevant implications are for you before coming to the second page. So let's try this time, especially my favorite last row. Hands apart. 1, 2, 3. Remember this. I've had a lot of time and a lot of exposure to study the brain. Most people end up thinking that there's this left brain, right brain orientation to the brain. First of all, that is completely wrong. There is no left brain, right brain. Brain doesn't know left and right and all of that. There is front of the brain, which captures a lot of information. To be very simple, right? If I use words like nucleus accumbens or amygdala, it will make me sound like a neurobiologist. But instead, if I talk in normal language, I'm just going to be saying large part of the brain, small part of the brain, right? And as with everything else in life, it's the small parts of the brain that actually control large functions that we do. But one thing that permeates every single part of the brain is musical input. Research says that if I speak this sentence, there's a certain amount of your brain which is being activated. Okay? Let us assume that to be X. But if the same sentence is read instead of spoken, it is capturing a little less than X of the brain. So that is why when you read something, you're not registering as much as when you're reading and sometimes speaking it aloud, right, to yourself. Then you capture a little more. But if the same sentence is sung, the differential is 1:10,000. That is why I am going to say something and you're going to reply it to me without looking at WhatsApp or notes or copying from your neighbor, which you're strategically good at doing. For example, Chukar mere man ko. This is all this slide is trying to say. Okay? Which is that when something is sung, you don't even need it to be written down. You will recollect it for a long period of time because more than 300,000 neurotransmitters are simultaneously activated in the brain when it is sung. So for example, and this is fun. What is the word you're associating with this particular set of notes? Can you be louder? Much louder? Very loud? The point that I am making is that the brain is not strategically lazy. The brain is always strategically hardworking by itself. It's always working. That is why you have dreams when you're sleeping. When you wake up, you have WhatsApp and that creates other daylight dreams. Then after that, you go on to Instagram and that creates nightmares. And it keeps going. Your brain is doing complex computational calculations all the time. And when music is added to it, it has 4 basic functions. The first function is that it activates the maximum part. It's like a gym for the brain. In fact, it's not even a gym for the brain, it's like a spa for the brain. Because it's activating all the muscles of the brain simultaneously. The sensory cortex is the most important part. That's what is telling you about your senses. Your hippocampus is what is storing memory. Your amygdala is concerned with decision making. Every part of the brain is functioning. That is why when I'm playing a line without announcing a song and I played a random group of discrete notes, you are still able to guess what's going to come next. Just like you did 1, 2, 3 and you clapped. Because your brain has gone into that part, taken it out of the hippocampus, your cerebellum has absolutely decoded this and you're able to respond. Why are we not using this more in education? Usually, music class is a separate class. There can be days when you do only science. There can be days when you're only playing. There can be days when you sit only with music. And all of it actually has an incremental effect on how you learn than actually putting it into periods. If you do this, then 7th period substitution के लिए आज CBSE मीट के साथ ये क्या करेंगे का सवाल ही नहीं उठता. Things will automatically change. This is what's happening to your brain. I'll give you one more example. Let's take this. कौन सा गाना है? मालूम है? Okay. Since there are many youngsters here, let me test this. क्या बात है यार. So, this is all this is trying to say. There's no left brain, right brain. It's every part of your brain because your brain is actually functioning at its most optimal. Okay, you ask an adult, what does music do to them? They will say, it makes me soothing, it soothes me, relaxes me, and calms me. Now, I'm going to give you 3 words. All 3 words have to be a field of engineering. If all 3 fields are a field of engineering, clap once. Computer science. Wait. All 3. Computer science, mechanical, philosophical. I know some people are having an opinion about this, but civil. And therefore, I just taught a concept in engineering. You can use these kinds of exercises for anything. By the way, this is musical intelligence. We think that musical intelligence is only singing. Akasha Ganga. That's not the only way you learn music. By the way, that way you never learn music. Right? Some of the earliest studies in auditory perception and the way the ear develops, right? At the age of 5 and 6, the brain has not yet started processing differences in what is called transience in music. Transience is what we call gamaka in classical Indian music, which is the doing kind of thing, right? That kind of transience the brain has not yet processed at the age of 5, which is why when you hear 5-year-old children on stage and you give them songs which are auditorily complex, they sing it flat. They will be singing Ham honge kamya, because it's not because they sing badly. It is not the music teacher's fault, right? It is not even the fault of the parents who have crowded the first row to take photo and selfie with them. It is the fault that the ear has not started processing this information. However, the brain has its own equation with music, and you just proved it to me, the way you could sing. Okay. Shape of You is by? Lovely. Believer is by? Wow. Batmi's Dil is from the movie? Excellent. Now tell me, who composed Happy Birthday to You? Hannah. So you bring speakers all the way so that you learn something. That's why you shouldn't look at phone. Absolutely right. Okay? 2 teachers. They were the Hill sisters, Mildred and Patty Hill, who at the turn of the century in the 1890s came up with a song that could actually hold discipline for a group of students. So they were experimenting with a lot of things, and there were all these things going around saying, good morning to you, good morning to you, good morning to you. It started with stuff like that. which actually then became the most viral song in the world with more than 6 lakh subscribers. Right? Happy Birthday to You is the most viral song in the world. By the way, pata hai sabko? You all know? If you don't know, shame on you. Okay, so little Mozart was 12 years old, and he was put into a room and he was blindfolded, and he came up with Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Now, it's not so great to say, oh, he composed a nursery rhyme. What's interesting, if you look at music as data, you will find the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star is something that can pretty much be a composite or can be combined and played with anything in the world. Okay? A little child of 12 has come up with a precise combination of notes and frequencies that can be combined and played with any song in the world. What does that mean? Let's take an example. See? Or if we take right? It can be combined and played with anything in this world. So artistic creativity is not just about creating works of art. Artistic creativity is to be able to take patterns and be able to match them with other patterns regardless of the field you're in. You could use artistic creativity to be a better engineer. You could use artistic creativity to be a better architect. You could use artistic creativity to be a better biologist. You could definitely use artistic creativity to be a better marketer. Okay? It is that part of your brain which is looking at patterns and creating other patterns around them, just like what I did. The second is collaborative. Nothing in the world, whether it's a family unit or a professional unit or different groups of professional units, can be achieved without collaborating with one another. Collaborating doesn't mean you necessarily have to like who you work with. Collaboration just means that you need to figure out optimally how to work in such a way that your skill sets and somebody else's skill sets become complementary. Nobody actually teaches us this, right? Because we've been used to doing this. So if we have to learn how to collaborate, right, the brain has to necessarily expand. Music again helps in that context. How does music help in that context? Just sit and make a song together. You will figure out what your comfort is, what the other person's comfort is not. Right? It's very simple. Similarly, the third part, which is that part of the brain that's dealing with decision making on a day-to-day basis. How do you navigate? Your brain, when you're driving, right, is automatically making a series of decisions, series of calculations at microsecond level, especially in India, where you have multiple things which are coming in your way. It's not like you did one algorithm at home and said, I will follow these steps automatically get from A to B. If you made a set of steps and decided only to follow them and started driving from A, you will die. Because the world doesn't work that way. If you're in Mumbai and you're in the Virar superfast, you have to be strategically timing yourself onto where to get off, right? This is cognitive creativity, how the brain is using creativity to undertake decision making, split second decisions. Again, the activation of music helps you here. The last part is how does it make you entrepreneurial? Mozart, when he composed Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, not only composed this data pattern, but he composed umpteen variations on this data pattern. So that's the basic data. But on that, what is a variation? That's a variation on a data pattern, right? Mozart didn't stop with that. Variation, I think 4 or 5 is. When you think that this is a 12-year-old child who's composed these variations, now you look at design and innovation and the words, and today's buzzwords, creativity, collaboration, 21st century skills, innovativeness, inclusivity, empathy, and all-embracive learning where we are not just teachers but augmenters. Cross-collaborative learning, cross-cultural learning, creative collaborative learning, 21st century skills learning, skills training, skills development, skills enhancement, and looking at the future of how teaching in the classroom, where the teacher becomes the taught and we flip the classroom and learn everything from one another. What has this 12-year-old child taught us? That we do not ever stop learning. We only stop learning when we stop questioning how far we can go. Music enables the maximum part of your brain. And it's a lifelong learning. Music gives you every part of the innovation DNA that you know. The mind starts becoming more and more and more flexible. Last example. Look at how quickly your brain jumped to become flexible enough to reach back to a memory of yours from the late 80s and complete that phrase. I take pianos to very strange places. I have played a piano in the middle of a horse paddock just to see how the horses would respond. This was a very interesting experiment where they put a piano in the middle of a battlefield in Chechnya, right? And they found that soldiers were automatically coming into the battlefield to just play a little bit of what they knew and went away and resulted in a 250% increase in a feeling of peace. So I split it up like this: lifelong learning, innovation, DNA, flexibility of the mind, energizing mind, body, and spirit. And I love doing these kinds of things because if you take the first 4 letters, it becomes. To rub your hands together again, hands apart. 1, 2, 3. Remember this: a group that claps together will stay together, and a group that stays together will change the world.